Hello, Interneters. Thank you for joining me in a second in a series of video game reviews where I randomly grab a Wii title and play it, whether it's good or bad, and let you know whether it was good or bad. And of course, if you read the title, you'll know which game it is this time around. Castlevania Judgment. So exciting. I remember when this game was announced for the Wii, I was pretty excited. New Castlevania game, fantastic. I wasn't sure what to expect. Was it going to be another 2D platformer? Or was it going to be a Metroid Prime style game, maybe? That would be cool. As that's what you think of when you think of Castlevania. You probably think side scrolling arcade platformer, or side scrolling RPG platformer, or some kind of Metroidvania, of course. But no, we didn't get that. We got a freaking 3D fighting game. So, after reading about that, I really didn't pursue it, but I did come across and picked it up a while ago, finally. And no one expected or wanted a 3D fighting game for Castlevania. And the other thing is the creators really pushed the motion controls about this game, or they talked it up anyway, and they're not good. Uh, so let's just move on to the wheel of controllers. So this is a Wii game. You're gonna have a few options. You're gonna be able to use the remote and the nunchuck together for motion control. Now I played all the controls, all the different styles, and the Wiimote is the worst option and makes the game near unplayable. It's neat for a couple seconds. After that, it's useless. Then you can use the classic controller. Now, if you use a classic controller or a classic controller Pro on the Wii, you just kind of default to the D-pad instead of the analog. The D-pad doesn't do anything. You need to use the analog. It's a little uncomfortable. The classic controller's better than the Pro controller in the respect that your fingers automatically land on the L and R buttons, which is the buttons that do anything. If you're using the Pro controller, they don't, and you got to kind of keep focused to use the right button. But if you have a first gen Wii and you have a GameCube controller, that is by far the best option. Everything falls right where it needs to. That's what I would suggest using. It still doesn't help the controls though. See, what the problem is with the controls is it's just inaccurate. If you've ever played a 3D fighting game, you still fight on a 2D plane and you use a series of buttons to move through that plane and around your opponents. In this game, you have free range of the playing field. You can move anywhere. You're not limited to that 2D kind of platform, which makes it really hard to aim. The other part is when you're in the middle of a move or a combo, you have to wait for your character to finish through that. You can't cancel it or reroute your character's movement pattern. So aiming is a real issue. Also, if you're watching the video in the background, I played this on normal, and it's horribly uneven. The matching against the enemies, they're much stronger than you. They're much more accurate in their hits, and they seem to have better attacks, especially when you're just starting off with the first two characters until you unlock some more. So, right away, it's not play-wise. It's not a fantastic experience. So those are really the only cons to the game. Everything else is decent, but that's a pretty big con. So let me just go into the story here. The story is there's a big bad guy in the future who sends a Time Reaper back 10,000 years to take over or to take out his rival Dracula. So Dracula is this guy's enemy at some point in the future. And so somebody finds out about this Time Reaper going back in time and then decides to time travel himself to gather his own group of heroes to defeat the Time Reaper. So that's supposedly the story. You don't really ever see that or understand it as that. It's sort of neat. It's kind of weird. It's not again, it doesn't really come to fruition in the game itself. You get 4 playable characters, but you're only going to start with 2 unlocked. Simon Belmont being one of them, which everyone, if you know Castlevania, that's the guy you know. Now, it's odd that there's only 2 characters unlocked if you're playing story mode. If you go down to one of the other modes, you'll see that there's more characters unlocked for some reason. So there's a little bit of inconsistency there, and I don't know why. Now, as you go through the game, you'll unlock things, items you can wear and such. So there's some neat things. Also, you'll unlock music to the game, which is a huge pro in my opinion. So the item part, not so much, but the music, because the music is really good. So once you unlock the music, of course, you could play it, listen to it. You can listen to it independently of the game, which is nice. You don't have to play the game to listen. You can just play the tracks. So I don't know. It's really hard for me to recommend this game. The graphics are okay. No issue with the graphics. Sounds pretty awesome. Gameplay is poor. Story's mediocre at best. This really is more just a fan service to the hardcore Castlevania fans. So you can get some character stories, and you can get some soundtracks. Outside of that, it's not really worth playing. If you want to play a fighting game, this isn't the game you go to play a fighting game. I know it's just maybe feeling like a short review. I was just what else to talk about? All right, let's talk about the game modes. So you have story mode. This is 1 player only. You play through each one of the characters' stories. That again, you start with just 2. And as you play through the game, you'll unlock others that you can play through. Then there's arcade mode, where you can play against the computer in a series of battles. And then there's castle mode. And arcade is also 1 player only, oddly enough. Castle mode is also 1 player. This, you clear certain conditions to defeat Dracula. Versus mode is 1 to 2 players. You can play against the computer or a second player. So it's just like a regular versus. And then there's survival mode, which is 1 player only. How many opponents can you beat without dying? That's all that is. Training, self-explanatory. There's tutorials where you can learn how to play, make the best of it. And then there's a Wi-Fi option, which of course doesn't work anymore, this being a Wii. And then there's another option, connect to a DS. If you have Castlevania Order of Excelsior on the DS, and you connect to it via the Wii, you'll get some extra levels unlocked. So it's kind of neat. And I went to go online to see how much that game costs, and it's retailing about $30, so not really worth it for me in this case. Now, the Castlevania Judgment is only retailing for about $10 to $15 right now, so it's not an expensive game. And if you like Castlevania, I'd say go ahead and grab it. But if you're just looking for a fighting game, again, not really worth it. One thing to note is, since I had such a challenge on normal difficulty, and there's only 2 difficulties at this point, normal and easy, I switched out to switched out to easy, and it was completely different. I could just tap 1 button and defeat enemies. Even when I got to Dracula at the end of the story mode, it was just, I could just bam him with 1 move and defeat him. So if you're really just in it for the music, I'd say swap out to easy and just play through it as fast as you can so you can get your audio tracks. Outside of that, again, playing this game is more of a luck than it is a skill. When I was playing it on normal, I would find weaknesses and points where the enemies would attack, where I could counterattack or start into a combo or something of that nature, and it wouldn't matter. I'd have luck 2-3 times in a row, and then after that, I would just get destroyed. So that's really it for this review. My opinion, I'm disappointed with the game. I may play through it on easy just to unlock the audio, but for the most part, I'm disappointed. And graphics, not bad. Sound, pretty good. Storyline, mediocre. Gameplay, not good at all. So I'd sit this one out unless you're a hardcore fan of the series. All right. So sorry if that was sad news for anybody who is looking forward to this game and hasn't played it yet. But I'll let you guys have a great night. Enjoy the gameplay, and I also have a short at the end of this of all my deaths trying to get through as far as I got, which normal gameplay was only about half through the story mode. All right. Well, thank you for watching, and happy interneting, everybody.
K.O. 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 Ring out! K.O. 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 K.O.